They said she was living the dream, married to a man every woman desired. But what they didn't see was how every night her pillow told the story of a love that was quietly dying. Leah Daniels had the kind of beauty that didn't shout. She wasn't the woman who turned heads with bright colors or heavy makeup. Her beauty was quiet, the kind that lived in her eyes, in the calmness of her voice, in the gentleness of her soul. When she walked into a room, peace followed her. When she smiled, hearts softened. That was who she was, peace itself. And for a long time, that peace was wrapped in love. Because she was married to Adrian Cole, a man everyone envied. He was tall, fair, handsome, and powerful, the kind of man people listened to when he spoke. The CEO of Cole Dynamics, a name that made headlines and inspired young entrepreneurs across the city. Leah met him 5 years ago at a charity gala. He'd been drawn not to her looks, though she was stunning, but to her simplicity. While others boasted and bragged, she sat quietly at the corner, serving food to children. Adrian had walked up to her and said, "You're not like them. You have something I've never seen before." And for a while, he meant it. Their marriage was everything people dreamed of. Dinners by candlelight, surprise trips to the beach, long drives with laughter that filled the air. Leah had found love she believed would last forever. She gave him her world. She adjusted her dreams to fit his. She became his cheerleader, his peace, his home. But somewhere along the line, something changed. At first, it was subtle. Missed calls, late meetings, distracted smiles. Then it grew louder. Unanswered texts, nights spent at the office, and the scent of another woman's perfume on his shirt. Leah noticed, of course. A woman in love always notices. But she told herself it was just stress. Adrian was building his empire. Maybe he was just tired, overwhelmed. Maybe he needed space. She prayed for him every night. She cooked his favorite meals. She waited up for him, even when he didn't come home until dawn. And when he walked in, smelling of expensive wine and cologne that wasn't his, she didn't ask questions. She only said, "You must be tired, my love. There's food on the table." And he would nod, distracted, murmuring a dry, "Thank you," before disappearing upstairs. The man who once told her, "You're my peace," now barely looked her in the eye. The man who once couldn't sleep without her beside him now turned his back when they lay in bed. And Leah, she stayed silent. Because silence was the only language left between them. She didn't tell her friends. She didn't tell her parents. She carried her pain like a secret one she protected even from herself. When Adrian's family visited, things only grew worse. His mother often said, "Leah, you're a good woman, but maybe a man like Adrian needs someone a bit more sophisticated." His sisters mocked her plain dresses, her soft tone, the way she treated the staff with kindness. And Adrian, the man who once defended her, just sat there, sipping his wine, pretending not to hear. That night, Leah cried in the shower, because she realized she had become invisible in the home she built. A week later, Adrian invited his business partners over for dinner. Leah worked tirelessly, from cooking to setting the table with care. She wanted him to be proud of her, to see the effort she still made. The house glowed that night. The scent of roasted chicken and candles filled the air. She wore a soft gold dress, one Adrian had once said made her look like sunlight. But when he arrived with his friends, he barely glanced at her. As she served them, one of the men joked, "Adrian, your wife is beautiful. You're a lucky man." Adrian chuckled. "Beautiful Yes. But she's still learning how to fit into my world. Laughter followed. Leah froze for a moment, her hand tightening around the serving tray. Her smile trembled, but she forced it back. Please enjoy your meal, she whispered softly and walked away. In the kitchen, she stood motionless for a while, then slowly slid down to the floor. Her tears came quietly, falling onto her dress like shattered glass. Later that night, when everyone had left, Adrian walked into the kitchen. She was still sitting there, staring blankly at the floor. He sighed. Leah, you embarrassed me tonight. You should learn to carry yourself better in front of my colleagues. She blinked, confused. I embarrassed you? Yes, he snapped. You act too soft, too humble. This is the business world, Leah, not a charity home. He turned and walked away. Leaving her with those words echoing in her chest began to fade, grow from pain. She stayed there long after he'd gone to bed. The candle on the counter flickered low, and Leah whispered to herself, I gave him peace, but he wanted pride. From that night on, something inside her began to fade, not her love, but her trust. Her silence, once born from patience, began to grow from pain. And though Adrian didn't see it, the woman he thought he could break was quietly learning how to let go. Because somewhere, in a boardroom across town, a woman named Melissa was smiling as her father mentioned coal dynamics for an upcoming partnership. And without knowing it, Adrian was walking straight into the trap that would destroy everything, including the woman who once would have died for him. They say a woman never really leaves the day she walks out. She leaves the day her heart stops trying. And for Leah, that day was coming faster than anyone realized. Weeks turned into months, and every day, the distance between Leah and Adrian grew wider, not in space, but in silence. Their conversations had turned into brief exchanges. Good morning. I'll be home late. Dinner's on the table. The words were few, but the silence in between them was deafening. Leah had stopped asking where he went at night, who he was texting, or why he never smiled anymore. She had stopped trying to fix what she didn't break. But even in her pain, she stayed kind. She still made his meals, still prayed for him, still ironed his shirts before he left for work. Not because she was weak, but because that's who Leah was. A woman who loved deeply, even when it hurt. One rainy evening, she heard a soft knock on the study door. It was Adrian. He looked distracted, his phone in hand. Leah, he said casually, Melissa will be joining us for dinner tomorrow. She's in town for some business meetings. I want you to prepare something nice. Leah hesitated. Melissa? Your childhood friend? Yes, he replied sharply. She's helping me connect with her father. You do know who Mr. Drew is, right? He's a senior manager at Helix Corporation. This could be the biggest partnership for coal dynamics. Leah nodded silently. I'll prepare something nice. He didn't say thank you. He just left, phone still in hand, a faint smile playing on his lips as he texted someone. Leah already knew who. The next evening, Leah set the dining table with quiet grace. Golden plates, soft music, candles burning low. She even put on a soft rose dress, Adrian's favorite color, though he hadn't noticed in months. Then the doorbell rang. Adrian opened it, his expression changing immediately, brighter, warmer than Leah had seen in months. Melissa, he said, pulling her into a hug that lingered far too long. Leah froze at the sight. Melissa was beautiful, tall, bold, perfectly styled, her smile sharp and knowing. She looked at Leah and said sweetly, Oh, you must be Leah. I've heard so much about you. Leah smiled gently. Welcome. Please, make yourself comfortable. But comfort, it seemed, was something only Melissa would have that night. Dinner was a performance, one Leah hadn't auditioned for. Adrian laughed at all of Melissa's jokes, looked into her eyes as if the world disappeared around them. When Leah tried to join in, he interrupted her mid-sentence, saying, Melissa actually knows about that. She studied business abroad, you know. Leah swallowed the pain quietly, nodding. Then Melissa said, her tone playful but cruel, Adrian told me you're more into charity work than business. That's cute. The word cute hung in the air like a knife. Leah's lips parted slightly, but she said nothing. She simply lowered her gaze, whispering a polite, yes, I enjoy helping people. Adrian laughed. That's Leah, my simple angel. Melissa smiled. How sweet. But her eyes said something else. Something cold, triumphant. That night, Leah sat by the window after everyone left. The rain outside mirrored the storm inside her. She had never felt so small in her own home. For the first time, she realized that her silence wasn't protecting her marriage anymore. It was burying her alive. Days passed, and Melissa became a constant presence. Business meetings turned into house visits. House visits turned into late nights. Leah would walk into the living room to find them sitting too close, whispering, laughing, sharing wine while she pretended not to notice. When she offered to serve them, Melissa would smile and say, Don't worry, Leah. You've done enough. We've got this. And Adrian would nod. Not a word in Leah's defense. Not a glance of guilt. Even the staff began to whisper, The madam is too patient. One of them murmured when they thought she wasn't listening. But Leah heard it all. And she carried that pain, quietly, gracefully, the way she carried everything else. One afternoon, Leah was watering the flowers in the garden when Adrian's car pulled in. Melissa stepped out, again, this time with a suitcase. Leah blinked, frozen. Adrian, why does she have a suitcase? Adrian sighed, rubbing his temples. Melissa will be staying here for a few weeks. We have a big project coming up, and it's easier if she stays close. Leah's voice cracked slightly. Here? In our home? Yes, Leah. Don't make a scene. Her lips trembled. A scene? Adrian, this is our house, our room, our space. He looked at her, cold and detached. You're overreacting. You can use the guest room for now. It's just temporary. Leah stood there, rain starting to drizzle again, her hands shaking. She looked at the man she once called her home and realized she didn't recognize him. For the first time, she didn't cry. She simply nodded, turned away, and whispered, If this is what love looks like now, I'd rather live without it. That night, Leah moved her things into the guest room. She sat on the edge of the bed, her wedding ring heavy on her finger. The sound of laughter drifted from the master bedroom, the room that used to be hers. Tears filled her eyes, but she wiped them away fiercely. Her heart was breaking, but something inside her, something quiet, powerful, was beginning to awaken. Because while Adrian believed she was too weak to ever leave, Leah was about to remind him that the woman he dismissed was far more powerful than he could ever imagine. They thought she'd never leave, because she was too kind, too patient, too in love. But what they didn't know was even the softest hearts have limits. For weeks, Leah lived like a shadow in her own home. The laughter upstairs never stopped the sound of Melissa's voice echoing through the hallways that once carried her joy. The walls that once felt warm now closed in on her, whispering reminders of a love that no longer existed. Every morning, she still made breakfast. Out of habit, Out of love, she couldn't unlearn. She'd set the table, waiting for Adrian to come down, but he rarely did. Sometimes she'd find his plate untouched hours later, cold as her heart had become. Her friends had stopped visiting. His family, once polite in public, now treated her like an inconvenience. Even the staff, following their master's tone, began to look through her as if she were invisible. Leah had become a stranger in her own life. One afternoon, she went into the city to buy groceries. It had been weeks since she'd gone out, and the air felt both freeing and foreign. As she walked through the market, she passed by a small flower stand. "Roses, madam?" the vendor asked with a smile. Leah paused. Adrian used to buy her roses every Friday, red ones, the color of passion, but it had been months since she'd seen even a single petal. She touched one gently and whispered, "No, not today." But as she turned to leave, the vendor called out, "You look sad, madam. Whoever made you forget to love roses doesn't deserve your heart." Leah smiled faintly. Those words from a stranger stayed with her all the way home. That evening, she arrived back at the mansion, only to find laughter pouring out from inside. She walked in and froze. Adrian, Melissa, and his family were all seated in the living room, glasses of champagne raised, the air thick with mockery. "Oh, look who's here," Adrian's mother said, smirking. "The quiet wife finally returns." Melissa giggled softly, her hand resting on Adrian's shoulder. "We were just telling him he's too serious for a man his age. He needs someone who knows how to have fun." Leah stood there, clutching her grocery bag, her knuckles white. Adrian chuckled. "Well, Melissa's not wrong." His friends joined in the laughter, as if cruelty was now entertainment. Leah's lips trembled. "Adrian, enough." But he only smirked. "You see, Leah, this is the problem. You take everything so personally. Loosen up. We're just joking." She looked around the room. Every eye mocked her, every smile cut deep. Her heart screamed, but her mouth stayed quiet. She turned slowly and began to walk away, her heels clicking softly on the marble floor. But before she reached the stairs, Melissa's voice followed her. "You're really lucky, Leah. Not many women could handle living under the same roof as the woman who completes their husband." The room exploded with laughter. Something in Leah snapped. She turned around, not with rage, but with calm that carried the weight of years. Her eyes glistened, but her voice was steady. "You're right, Melissa. Not many women could. But I'm not most women." Then she turned to Adrian. "I loved you so much that I lost myself. I stayed when you stopped caring. I prayed when you started lying, and I believed in you even when you mocked my faith. But I'm done trying to convince a blind man to see my worth." Adrian blinked, startled. He wasn't used to her speaking up. "Leah, what are you saying?" She smiled faintly, a smile that carried both pain and power. "I'm saying goodbye, Adrian." That night, Leah packed her bags, not in anger, but in peace. She folded her clothes carefully, wiped her tears quietly, and slipped off her wedding ring. Her hands trembled as she placed it on the dresser beside their wedding photo. She paused, staring at the picture. Two people who once promised forever. Then she whispered softly, "I kept my promise. You broke yours." She took one last look around the room, her memories, and walked out. The driver saw her with her suitcase. "Madam, should I inform Mr. Adrian?" She shook her head. "No. Let him think I'm still here. That's what he's always done, pretend." Then she got into the car and left without turning back. When Adrian came home later that night, Slightly drunk and laughing with Melissa, the house was quiet. Too quiet. He called out, "Leah!" No answer. He went upstairs, still smiling, but when he opened the guest room, it was empty. Her clothes, her perfume, her things gone. On the dresser, he found her ring and a folded note. He opened it slowly. There were only 3 words written in her handwriting. "You'll remember me." For a moment, he stood still, disbelief written across his face. Then he laughed, nervously. "She'll be back," he told Melissa. "She always comes back." Melissa smiled, resting her hand on his chest. "Of course she will. She can't live without you." But deep down, a small, unfamiliar fear began to creep into Adrian's chest. Because for the first time, he realized Leah hadn't cried this time, and that her silence, scared him more than any scream ever could. Because what Adrian didn't know was that the woman he believed couldn't live without him was about to stand on a throne far higher than he could ever reach.